over by insults, lies, self and selfish interest, and diversions, not on issues of national interest and progress. Party platforms are developed, launched with fanfare and promptly discarded. Critical issues are discarded as intellectuals and technocrats are sidelined, while minions, gatekeepers, and job hunters take over the campaign and build iron rings around the candidates at all levels. Candidates are caged and milked opportunistically. At the end of all the rigmarole, people get elected. They never believe in or share the common platform, fail to carry Nigeria along, lack a deep understanding of the trends and tendencies in the social and economic system. They are foreign to foreign affairs. Again, I will be the first to say there are exceptions to this scenario. What we seek is for all persons and constituencies to be collectively involved in the same process of deploying democratic tenets to guide competition for and deployment of political power. We must put the best foot forward. Politics is not a dirty game. The rules and principles are all there and known to most actors. The Constitution of the country provides the foundation that guides political activities. Democracy equally enables political actors to engage each other within set rules. But when actors confuse the beginning with the end, or adopt the famous Machiavellian dictum that the end justifies the means, they get set for a race without boundaries, with no rules or where anything goes. The norms of politics and political competition get imprisoned as the actors invent new rules of engagement as they go along and seek to undo one another in non-beneficial issues to the ordinary person, an ordinary citizen. We fail to understand that democracy is not a one-shot game. It is evolutionary, and it takes time to ground the practice. It is not for quick change, and indeed, if we play by the rules, we will all realize that regimes or governments can change, but the tenets remain constant. They believe by some that revolution is preferred to evolution is wrong and dangerous. We will not be so bitter with the election result or overload the courts with litigations, very many of which are like try your luck. When we learn to play by the rules and respect the principles of democracy, we recognize that ascension to office does not empower incumbents to destroy all policies and programs initiated by their predecessors. Rather, a new leader is expected to contribute to a high level of continuity of policies. The stability that a free and fair election process brings should encourage elected officials to take off quickly and produce results. In this case, it really does not matter. It really does not matter the party your predecessor belonged to. the policies and projects are in the interest of the people. Party is only a platform to achieve the best for the people by those who have got the mandate of the people. Our failure on several, if not on all fronts, is because we are impatient with democracy and democratic practice. That impatience takes an element of greed, selfishness, and lack of patriotism with it. Yet, if you look at our pre-colonial history, you will find countless strong practices that were genuinely democratic, including checks and balances to prevent dictatorship and bad governance in whatever form. When a new king or queen is installed, he or she does not proceed to behave as if the community is new. He or she does not immediately proceed to build a new palace and destroy the legacies of the predecessors. Rather, the focus is to correct past errors, build on inherited legacies, cultivate support from all quarters, enhance inclusion and respect existing government and leadership structure and institutions. In Nigeria, each new government behaves as if Nigeria is a newly found country. In fact, during campaigns, some leaders sound as if they plan to reinvent Nigeria and create new Nigerians overnight. And you will hear them for the first time ever, as if Nigeria had never been there before them. That is because they miss the aspect of democracy that emphasizes continuity, stability, and predictability. One regime can lay the foundation, but it requires many regimes to continue to build positively and constructively on the foundation. It is largely because we overlook and often disregard the basic principles of democracy. And somehow, we do not appreciate the damage that we do individually and collectively to the fabric of the nation. The sort of anger and bitterness we express while talking about fellow Nigerians, our willingness to throw out the baby and the bathwater, the high level of intolerance and preparedness to unleash violence on opponents give cause for concern. I marvel at the level of arrogance, of incompetence and ignorance. The impunity is sickening. I believe that we urgently need to get back to the basics and rebuild our commitment to democratic practice. We must take some time for introspection and ask if we have been doing the right thing to ourselves and to future generations. And in reality, it is not rocket science to get back on the path of democracy and social justice. It begins with self-commitment, then leadership commitment. There are thousands of persons with integrity all over the country and in the diaspora. Leaders need to identify and connect these persons with their communities and organizations to build a true national movement and commitment to democratic practice. Once we commit to opening up democratic spaces, sanctioning breaches and emphasizing transparency and accountability at all levels, Nigeria will begin the cultivation of a new democratic culture that will spread to all nooks and corners of the nation. I do not, by any means, assume that this will be easy. We have made many false starts in the past. We have steadily become impatient with democracy, its principles and practice, as we demand instant results. But past failure should not discourage us from embracing new vistas or perspectives that will guarantee our survival. Without reinventing the wheel, therefore, let me state very clearly that the principles I've been talking about include, but certainly not limited to, building and compacting a truly people-led and people-driven constitution that they will own and defend against political predators of any form. This is the basic foundation that when you involve the people in the process, they understand it, make their inputs, see the document as their own, not only women, and not only will they defend it, but it will also guide their political actions, assignments, and realignments. Their welfare and well-being is involved, and they can make meaningful contributions. The extent to which we buy into the popular compacting of democratic constitution and use the process to strengthen the independence of the judiciary and the electoral umpire, encourage the popular teaching of the Constitution to promote a culture of constitutionalism, promote and guarantee basic rights, the easier it will be for Nigeria to engage the challenges that negate national cohesion, growth, and development. Money cannot buy patriotism, but it can build institutions, interactions, and promote brand of development that commits the people to the nation and its leadership. This will be followed by 1. Citizen participation in rule-based political competition. How much internal democracy do the parties have? Are the parties used to identify and train new leaders? Are there philosophical differences that promote true choice for the people? Do all qualified citizens have the opportunity to vote in elections? How much political education are the parties providing for their supporters? Are women treated equally in the political process? Do we provide adequate space and time for the youth in our democratic and political process? Or do we just pay lip service to not too young to run? Is the electoral umpire well funded and truly independent without bias and favor? Do parties and leaders obey their own constitution? To what extent is the deployment of money regulated, and are sanctions enforced without fear or favor? How reliable and independent is the judiciary? Equality. 2, equality before the law and respect for human rights. The leadership, functioning, funding, and monitoring of security agencies, and even as importantly, the independence of the judiciary are critical. Do rights really matter? And how easy is it for citizens to access justice? Are socio-economic rights considered important, at least in national discourses? 3, tolerance and inclusion. Are there institutions that protect and guarantee the rights of children, women, and minorities? Do we tolerate differences and truly encourage the closure of fault lines? 4, accountability of leadership and public officials. How accountable are the elected and appointed officials? Do we have an open, consistent, and serious battle against corruption? Do the citizens have access to national and state budgets? And can they interrogate the grounds on which policies are initiated? What is the level of transparency in governance? Is governance as constituted used to advance individual and collective rights and the enhancement of social justice? And 5, respect for the Constitution and the rule of law. Is the Constitution regarded as the grand norm that guides the basic functioning of the legal system? Do political actors truly have regard for the documents? There are enough powerful legal minds at this program to throw light on this challenge. And 6, the importance of leadership. Leaders are both born and made. For enduring and thriving democracy that will deliver the dividends to the people, there must be systematic and continual development and training for democracy and for good governance. By all means, these do not exhaust the tenets of democracy, but they represent a good starting point. If a nation can get through these levels, all other tenets will be easy to achieve. Again, I must reiterate that there are no shortcuts, no quick fixes, and no magic wand. Let me conclude this brief address by reiterating my main point. Democracy is possible in Nigeria, and we have the capacity to build a culture of democratization. However, we must recognize and accept the fact that it is an evolutionary process with principles. We must also appreciate the fact that it does not mean that all problems will disappear overnight. Rather, with strengthened and independent institutions, a democratic system will empower us to effectively and efficiently manage the contradictions and challenges in the system. Without retracing our political steps to the right direction, the current process will either not produce the right leaders, or it will leave so many broken blocks on the path to governance and attract resources and energy away from the task of rebuilding Nigeria and consolidating our democratic practice. The result will be democratic quagmire, increased corruption, insecurity, and survival of the fittest, richest, and better connected, with little or no recognition of merits. The implication and cost of such a scenario to our present and future can best be imagined. I pray that God will grant us the wisdom